difficult roads often lead to beautiful destinations. That quote was taken from a friend of mine. She found it somewhere and recommended it. And I actually really like it because it can help everyone to understand that the roads or paths they take will be hard. And there is never-ending truth for that. Every path we take will include an obstacle or obstacles of some sort. The tricky part is getting through, but that's what really, and it's what takes a toll on you. The journey can really wear you down, but they don't mention that at the end of that, you will often be rewarded. And a lot of people say there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and I say shame on them, because the pot of gold is only there if you want it to be. If you want to succeed and you try your best, you will feel so much better, first of all, and you will be rewarded. That's just how it works. The treasures always lie within the journey, and when you've accomplished what you've set out to do, everything will seem that much better. And off we go. Episode 2, How to Manage Self-Injury During Anxiety, featuring Brooke.
Let's sit in bed and watch the sun paint my window. The light comes through and bathes our lives in red. Let's go outside and watch the leaves fall above us. Soft wind on your skin turns your head.
The first thing that you should do is identify what is making you so anxious. This takes a lot of practice because anxiety can happen at any time and is often a buildup of triggers that you may not even realize are triggers at the time. Keep a list of your triggers and do your best to avoid them. For moments when you can't, something that helps me when I'm thinking about self-harm is music. Listening to loud music and mouthing or singing when I can, along to the lyrics, takes my thoughts away from what I want to do. It's also important to make sure that you're not listening to music that related to whatever is triggering your anxiety. Listening to triggering music can convince you that self-harming is the right thing to do. If you're a musician, you can also pick up an instrument and or sing. Another thing that helps is to write down how you're feeling and what is triggering you in explicit detail. Then rip up, cut up, or burn, only if you can, what you've written. This is a way of releasing and letting go of your anxiety. I especially like this one because I love to write. I know someone who paints when they're anxious. I know another person who talks their anxiety through with other people. Your ways of fighting your thoughts will be different, depending on your interests and what works for you. Just remember, anxiety has a nasty way of making you think you won't get through something or you won't succeed at something. That's not true. You will get through whatever you're facing and you will succeed. Success isn't just defined by the grades you get, it's defined by getting it done. There are people out there who will gladly sit down with you and help you when you are anxious. Your teachers or boss can help you find ways to make something less stressful. If you have to give a presentation, talking to them about having someone else presenting with you is an alternative. If you have 3 papers and a test in one day, you can talk about getting an extension on one of the papers or taking the test at a different time. Some people will refuse, but it's still worth a try. If you don't try, you won't know if you could have found an alternative way to reduce your anxiety level. I know firsthand that fighting through the anxiety is incredibly difficult. I'm always anxious about something. I have been for years. It's important to remember that if you want to get through your anxiety, you have to do it in a healthy way. Self-harming is not the answer. There are so many resources out there that will give you alternatives to self-harm. All you have to do is Google them. Choose one or a few that interest you or you think may work and try them out. If one doesn't work, try another. Don't give up. Just believe that you will find a healthy way to cope with your anxiety, and you will.
As Brooke mentioned, grades should not reflect success because success is not measured, it is learned by trying over and over again. Another great point is that everyone has different ways of dealing with anxiety. And honestly, everyone needs to know that anxiety isn't a laughing matter. I cut classes and skipped school from just from small-mannered panic and anxiety. Everyone should try new things to help manage it. And for me, I get through mine by writing down what I'm anxious about. And then I look at it and tell myself I can do it. It's on paper, and it seems kind of silly at first, but I tell myself I can do it about 5 to 7 times. And I go into the anxiety-provoking event or circumstance, and I just do it. The worst thing you can do with your anxiety, though, is avoid it. And to that point, many people, including teachers, are very good at easing the anxiety or helping you to calm down. What's most interesting about self-injury is that it's more common to hear someone talking about that rather than someone talking about feeling suicidal or having suicidal thoughts. To me, from what I've seen, they're often closely related, if not almost directly. You can argue causation, correlation there, but I'd say almost 9 times out of 10, someone that is self-injuring is also having suicidal thoughts. I've seen many people never talk about suicide with an arm full of scars who ended up in treatment eventually for suicidal thoughts. But all that aside, managing your urges to self-harm while under extreme duress from anxiety or panic is, well, it's hard, to say the least. We've transitioned from the Prozac nation to the United States of Xanax. It was an article, I cannot remember where, but I didn't read the full article. The title just grabbed my attention because it just basically means that we have more people with anxiety than depression. And what I want to understand is why we're just giving out anxiety disorders. Because everyone has anxiety in their life. There are a good amount of people, myself included, who have very real anxiety disorders. And not to say that a majority of the people don't have the disorders. It's you need to be sure. There shouldn't be any self-diagnosing or anything like that. You need to speak to your therapist, caseworker, psychiatrist, or neurologist to see if it's just standard, like anxiety, like fight or flight, or if it's a much more severe version, if it prohibits you from doing things. That is often a much larger situation. But back to the self-harm thing. I often wonder how hard it is for other people to manage their urges, because I'm at a point in my life now where the urges are minimal and mostly unrecognizable during my daily activities. So I really do sit and wonder sometimes, and I get very upset when I hear that other people are doing it, because I watched how it hurt my family and how it hurt my teachers, my friends. And don't focus on that if you are self-injuring, because you need to focus on yourself. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you need to have perfect skin, because I sure as hell don't. But I want you to think to yourself, what is the most important thing, or what is the one thing keeping you from, utter destruction, and just what is keeping you here? What is keeping you going? You need to figure that out for yourself. I just have a few tips on supporting friends with self-injurious behavior. Do not underestimate them. Even if they may be exaggerating, it's crucial to make sure that the other person will remain safe, and talk to them calmly about how they should inform their parent or counselor or school authority. And 2, don't talk down to them, because they will perceive it as you doing them a favor, when it should be basic human nature. Watching someone hurt themselves, it really hurts to think about, because I can admit I've cried just because I don't want my friends to do that to themselves. I don't want them to die. I've cried because their pain makes me upset, and all I want to do is help them. So please show some true kindness and respect and help them. Don't force them to give up anything, but try and get them to want to talk about it. That is what's important. And to that end, do not expect open or direct communication. The self-harming person will often withdraw from social settings and may cause them to be a little bit suspicious or otherwise concerned that someone is trying to help them. And most of the self-harming persons will already have paranoia, and you need to treat them with respect and pure kindness, as I said before. Follow through on checking up on them. That's number 4. Be a good friend and make sure they're okay, whether they're still self-harming or not. Check up on them and let them know that you care. However, should the self-harm continue after your original conversation, report it immediately to someone. And the question I get asked often is, why would I wait a day or wait for the next thing to happen? I'm not saying anyone should wait, but oftentimes someone who self-harms will be looking for someone to just help them. Most of the people who do self-harm are not looking for a ticket to the hospital. They need guidance and support, and will definitely look up to the person who does guide them. Number 5, if you have any tips, please let us know, because we will be releasing a guide to help people communicate with self-harming friends. It's not going to be published or anything, but it'll be on our website at some point. So, wrapping it up, please remember, folks, no matter what you're going through, you are not alone. I promise to always remind you of that. And with that, we will conclude this episode. Be sure to check out next week's podcast with Sandy McCarthy, who will be talking about classroom behavior, warning signs, and support during her time in the Westfield High School Bridge program.